It's oh, am I coming through? Okay,
Yeah, we
sorry.
can hear you just fine.
Discord was giving me the finger apparently. It's Ohio, man. It's honestly, if you ask me, from a historical point of view, I think Ohio is more deserving of a gateway arch than, say, I don't know, Missouri. Uh-oh. What'd you do?
What did you do?
Oh, Stephanie says, can hear Joey and now Dallin.
Well, it would be, except swamp accurately describes how my stomach feels right about now. No. I'm not sick. I'm not sick per se. I had certain foods today that my stomach went, hey, you haven't had this in a while. I'm going to pretend like I have no idea how to digest this stuff.
Yeah, well, you know what? If you were eating what I ate today, I'd fully understand. I'm sorry, but 3 quarter, literally quarter-sized, overcooked pieces of
Turkey leg?
effectively chicken nugget do not count as chicken tenders. I'm sorry.
uh, See,
I did not.
I've gone to Renfest here in Maryland, and I have a system down. I go in, I get my macaroni and cheese that's fried macaroni and cheese that's on a stick. I get my bee sting. I get my cheesecake that's on a stick. I get my bee sting. I get a pretzel. I get a bee sting, and I have about a dozen bottles of water after that, and I'm good to go.
Yeah, I did not partake of the $10 turkey leg.
No, I don't partake of the turkey legs ever.
I've had the turkey legs before, but I ain't paying $10 for a friggin' turkey leg. I'm sorry.
Let's just put it this way: they have places where I'd rather spend 2 $5 bills to get 2 really large bratwurst.
I did, however, find out that my archery skills have not gone completely to waste.
Oh, that's good. Wait, you like archery too?
Yeah, I have a English longbow. Granted, it's only like I think it's about a 55-pound draw weight, but anyway.
I went with compound, just due to the guidance from my dad back when I was a youth. And yeah, I love archery. I think it's a great thing.
I also have a crossbow that my brother gave me, but the
Except for one that shot ping pong balls, I have never shot a crossbow. I'd like to.
I've made one.
Really? That's very cool. That takes talent because there's lots of parts.
Well, I made one when I was a kid. It worked.
That's very cool.
Let's just say I was very inventive as a child. Not so much in the, finding new ways to do things rather than just finding my own way of doing old things, like, I don't know, potentially lethal crossbows and potato guns, snowball cannons.
Yeah, you get along with one of my friends.
When
he
I
made a flaming. He inadvertently made a tennis ball gun that shot flaming tennis balls.
yeah,
That
yeah,
was not intended.
I can imagine. I can see how that would happen. I I'm a firm believer in the fact that or the possibility that if I make it to old age, I'm going to be that old guy living out in the middle of some forgotten field, and all you're going to see is my tiny little house, and parked next to it a great big trebuchet and about 30 cars that have been tossed a couple acres. Mm. Well,
I can hear you just fine, but then again, who cares what you have to say? Ooh. You're very welcome. Oh, no. I don't feel jealous at all. We needed a fall guy. You were the perfect pick. Do you really have a t-shirt that says that? Nah.
Stephanie,
There's nobody on this panel that thinks that you're a bitch.
Stephanie, I just want to say I get that reference.
There's enough old farts on this panel to get most references.
Well,
And it's just the three of us.
unless you're really big into medieval siege equipment, you probably wouldn't get this one.
What, a trebuchet? I'm familiar with the trebuchet.
No, Warwolf.
Why does that sound familiar?
Mm.
Let me pull... Hold on a second. Let me pull up the YouTube stream. Where is it? Live. Do your Civic.
Like here. Okay. Oh, there we go. There we go.
Did you do something wrong?
I did indeed do something wrong. Now I better turn my levels down because holy balls. I think it's even picking up the fan in the background.
For those who were scratching their heads, Warwolf was, at its time, believed to be the largest trebuchet ever constructed.
Very cool. Could it move the earth?
Yes, it was to be used during the siege of Stirling Castle by King Edward I in the War of Scottish Independence. Sadly, we don't have exact measurements, but what we do know is that when it was disassembled for moving, it filled 30 wagons.
That's
hefty. Significant.
That's hefty.
Hefty.
Wimpy.
Yeah, I don't even want to think about... actually, no, I would like to see something like that actually built, just to say that I did. Okay, well, now that I finally got my shit together here, we can actually get started. Although I've completely lost the plot here, but that's okay. Okay. So now that I finally got the audio settled, more or less, I think. Although Ryan's saying I'm loud, but then again, that was before I turned my levels down, so... we'll see how this works. Okay, those of you who've had to put up with me being the host before, you know I don't typically do a 5-minute freestyle, but this weekend somebody done writ me a script. because I can't ad lib for the life of me. So yeah, I know, right? Anyways, so okay, so yeah, so he's got audio. Yeah, Stephanie. This is my first time using OBS, so the fact that we actually made it to stream on the first try, I'm going to call that a win.
Hey, Steph, at least all he's got to deal with is OBS. It could be worse. We could be dealing with my IBS.
And the TMI flag is down. These are the jokes, folks. This is what you paid for. Anyways.
I'm sorry, I've seen the film The Lady Killers one too many times.
All right, so here we go.
No one talks to Mountain Girl that way.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, so we're going to rewind this one to the beginning, I guess, because apparently I wasn't heard the first time.
Take it away.
Yeah, so from the top. God, I'm cutting all of this out in post, just so you know.
What's up?
Yeah. All right, so one more time from the top. And we are live. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Holy Crap, the Vlogcast. A vlogcast that comes from a skeptical point of view to answer some of the questions of why. As in, why does OBS hate me? This vlogcast started as a combination of spite and the Streisand effect because some people on Facebook, they tend to get really ticked off when the facts that they were told and thought they had actually aren't. And part of this is to follow through with the old adage, sometimes the journey is more important than the destination. As you figured it out, Shujin is not here tonight, so you're stuck with me. I'm known as Dallin all over the place, and I'm your main host for the evening. And let's just reintroduce the panel here. Top of the bingo card from the state that should have its own gateway arch other than that other place. Good evening, Joey.
Shujin, that's my line.
Oh, God. All right, and then coming from the place...
not here, man.
Oh,
No, look at the...
Look at the chat. He's there.
Yeah, he's there.
I can't...
Yeah.
really
He's
bounce
one
around.
leg down, but he is one leg down, so we got him a little bit.
One lung down.
Oh, his left lung. Honestly, I thought that said left leg. Hi, I need to clean my glasses. Anyways. And then from the place that makes Dagobah look like a resort swamp, good morning, Unknown Tech.
There's not enough midichlorians in existence to clean up down here.
I'm almost thinking of Warhammer 40k. I'm going to need more midichlorians for this heresy. Anyways.
I'm going to need the big trebuchet.
Brother.
Dude, Johnson & Johnson couldn't produce enough bleach to clean this area of the world.
Brother, get the trebuchet. The heavy trebuchet.
To be fair,
To be fair.
on a
To be fair.
having absolutely no idea that this is where this where any of the conversations for the show tonight were going to go, I was bombarded by by a trebuchet and a catapult today. Granted, they were desktop size and they were firing marshmallows, but rather stale marshmallows too.
Oh,
I wouldn't recommend eating them.
Fair enough. Okay, so behind schedule as we are here, as I said, actually I didn't say it because you're not gonna get this in post. I normally don't do a 5-minute freestyle because I can't ad lib to save my life. However, Shujin decided to supply me with something here, and after you hear it, you'll probably know why. So I'm not even going to pretend that I've got a 5 minutes thing on the clock here. I'm going to stumble on this, so bear with me. Anyways,
in the words of Mr. Rogers, I'll watch the time.
Yeah. Anyways, your 5-minute freestyle starts now. Okay, so for those of us who grew up in the punk 70s and the hair metal 80s and the thrash 90s, headbanging would probably make you first think all about music, right? Yeah, not this time. There's a certain something that happens when we're online, and we've talked about it before. It's the anonymity of being behind the screen, the not being face-to-face with someone. The, and I quote, online nobody knows that you're a dog, unquote, condition that allows us to chime into a discussion with more ease, relatively speaking. And we know none of us was better at it than Heretic Woman. That confrontational bitch who who only knew how many tabs open on her web browser at a time, and how many browsers open at a time, and how many documents open in the background. I would love to have a PC that could pull that off. She was one of those people that straddled the lines between excellent debater, internet troll, and, these are not my words, folks, royal cunt. Yes, that is what Shujin wrote, royal cunt, because Heretic Woman would be rolling, laughing right now to hear us say that. Because she'd know it was being said as a complete and utter compliment. Yeah, dig that, right? It's a compliment to be told you're threading the needle between teaching someone and pissing them off. At least for people like us. People who are occasionally combative and confrontational. But keeping up that level of strength is tough. I mean, constantly wading into discussion over and over again, and seemingly the same damn subjects and topics over and over again. It's like driving across country listening to Jack FM, although I've heard it called Bob FM in a few places too, but on the Eastern Seaboard, and hearing, we play what we want. But you change coverage areas, one Jack FM fades out, another fades in, and they're still playing the same damn thing. The same damn 12 songs, it seems, over and over again. And it's always the damned single cut. Never the album versions, you know? Pisses me off to expect to hear Prince's guitar solo at the end of When Doves Cry, and they just cut away right as that first bent note happens. It's like Vanilla Ice all over again. And I'm pretty sure Prince is staring at us right now going, what? You're comparing me to Vanilla Ice? What the fuck? And that's why so many of us who are otherwise not wanting to be confrontational get shied off easily. We don't want to deal with people who are yelling and screaming, even virtually in a text-based forum. You say there's no nuance in plain text? I'll tell you, you're full of crap. When you use full-on caps lock, you're either typing on a green CRT via 1200 baud modem, or you're screaming. And those of us who don't want to be screamed at slip out the door, quietly exiting, feeling bad because we know what's going to happen. We've seen it before, we've read it before, we've gone over it in our heads over and over and over again. And we sympathize to those that can keep up the good fight for reason and rationality, because we know they're banging their head against the wall time and time again, over and over again, a never-ending against an unyielding wall. But we're not trying to take down that wall, are we? Oh, sure, over time, a lot of time, we can make a dent in it. But what'll give first? The wall or our forehead? No. We're using that thumping, that repetitive correction, that reused rebuttal over and over again, so that someone new, someone open to evidence, someone who is not yet ideologically deaf will hear the sound. Someone who will be curious into what's making that noise, curious into who is making that noise, and curious as to why they're making that noise. And with any luck, they'll join us on the dance floor and headbang with us for a while too. This is episode 281 on the docket, Your Honor. Do your civic duty. And I really do wish Heretic Woman was here to talk about this, because I know she'd have, well, for one thing, she'd have my back politically, because we're talking about my country tonight. You know, Shujin always talks about how he hates talking about America, but so much bad shit happens there. Well, apparently now it's my turn, and, first time using OBS, hosting a show, dealing with a live chat.
Contagious.
What's that?
The batshit is contagious.
Yeah. I'm beginning to think the Orange Man, he chose the wrong border to work on the wall. Y'all can keep that crazy for yourselves. But, anyways. That's just me. Okay, and always as to obey the format. Oh boy. We've heard nothing about Raif Badawi again. So as of the recording of tonight's show, it has now been 7 years, 3 months, 23 days since Raif Badawi was arrested for what amounts to thought crimes. Our hopes and thoughts are still with you and your family. And I guess, yeah, hopes and thoughts are about all we've got right now. I won't say thoughts and prayers because we all know how effective that is. Just ask anybody who's ever dealt with a hurricane. Yeah. Okay, so doing the civic duty. We've got an election coming up here. As a matter of fact, it's happening this month. I've actually got my voter's card in the mail. I actually have to go do advanced polling because I think come election day I'm actually going to be out of the country. So, got to go do my thing. So for us this year, it's a 3-party race. We've got the incumbent Liberals, headed up by Justin Trudeau. Say about him what you will. The Conservatives, I think that's what they're called now. These guys change names more often than Jefferson Starship did back in the day. I think they started off as Jefferson Airplane, but anyways. But they're headed up by this baby-faced individual by the name of Andrew Scheer. And then our last one we have is the NDP, or the New Democratic Party, which is headed up by a gentleman by the name of Jagmeet Singh. And yes, he does wear a turban. And I'm sad to report that a lot of the, okay, I've been watching you guys a lot, and I've been criticizing a lot. Because we've got the, well, okay, you've got the Republicans, you've got Trump. And watching the Democrats eviscerate each other to try to come up with a leader. And then that leader, once they come out of this bloody and bruised at the head of what's going to be a fractured party, is going to have to go up against the incumbent. And unfortunately, I'm seeing a lot of that same kind of rhetoric coming up here. My Facebook feed is filled, not with... There's a couple of platform promises, Singh is going to cap internet rates so that the big cable and internet companies can't overcharge us for service, although I'm curious to see what the rate he wants it to be is going to be. But other than that, all I've heard is brownface and Andrew Scheer is Hitler. So yeah, it seems the crazy has indeed started to migrate up here. Which is really sad because, one of the biggest pushes these days in both countries is to get people out to vote. We've been hearing about it. Yeah, in the live chat, Stephanie says, Facebook and Twitter are empty vessels, all hot air and hyperbole. You're absolutely right. It is, and you're right. I shouldn't be getting my news from those two places because, well, not a whole lot of people do go on there. And when they do, they're going after the fear reaction. I imagine a lot of moderates, if you were to interview them, they'd be like, wait, what? You know, Trudeau did what? Or, you know, Cortez said what? So is it just me? Am I seeing just really nothing more than mudslinging these days, or are you guys seeing it too?
That's basically what Democratic politics have boiled down to, yeah.
Like listening to, sorry.
For example,
Mm-hmm.
our last election. Did you see a whole lot of, I don't know, commercials popping on about how the other candidate has all these redeeming qualities? Of course not. Every single one was mudslinging. It was putting the opposite candidate in the worst possible light.
Yeah. You know, I've got nothing against having a charismatic leader. I mean, because that person is, you know, they're a combination. They're an ambassador, a spokesperson, but they also have to understand, like, you're being handed the keys to the country. You know, we used to call it a mandate. I don't know if they call it that anymore, but when you rose to that office, be it, you know, president or prime minister, there was an expectation that you were going to govern. You were going to try to help progress the country. But nowadays, it just seems to be, hey, vote for me because he wore blackface or he wore brownface. You know, ignore the fact that my policies are going to, you know, marginalize people who, you know, were marginalized 50 years ago and we loved it so much. Let's do it again.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically what we're looking at these days. I mean, I can't even remember the last time I saw a political ad that was at all, like, just strictly trying to be positive.
Yeah. You know, and even some of the things I've heard about, like, well, universal health care, that seems to be a big one, or health care for all, or...
Oh, you mean socialism?
You know, I ask I think of this every time I look at this. You know, people who talk about, you know, that, oh, this is socialism or taxation is theft. Let me ask you something. Do you flush your toilet? Do you drive or ride or bike or walk on roads? Where do you think they come from? But yeah, no,
Look,
I see where you're coming from, though, Joe. About
I've said it before.
Mm-hmm.
I've said it before, and I will say it again. And I will continue to say it because it is one of the most intelligent things I've ever heard said, and I'm happy to, you know, regurgitate it as often as possible. I do not have children.
Okay.
I most likely never will have children. But I still pay taxes for my local schools.
Mm-hmm.
And do you know why? Because I don't want to live in a world full of idiots.
Yeah, I agree. You know, actually, the best part about, like, when I became a homeowner and actually had to worry about taxes like that, the tax form I got actually asked me, what kind of school do you want your taxes to go to? Like, I could choose public school, or I could have chosen Catholic school. I'm pretty sure I don't need to tell you which one I chose. At least I hope not.
Well, been a minute, but
Yeah.
can't really comment on the merits of a good Catholic. You'll have strong knuckles
Yeah.
if you have any knuckles left.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, I'm just catching up with the chat here. Felix is talking about mudslinging takes attention away from the candidate doing the screaming, but it comes down to making your opponent more evil than you could ever be. Well, one thing I have noticed, too, is, again, I've been watching a little bit about the way Trump is apparently trolling the Democrats right now.
Yeah, he insinuated and did a hashtag to try to get Mitt Romney impeached. Just like, dude, you don't impeach a senator or a member of anything other than a president.
Yeah.
Presidents get impeached.
Yeah.
And he doesn't even know that much. It's like it was like I was having a conversation with somebody, I forget who it was, and I said, this is the problem you have with a businessman in a position of politics. A businessman knows how to do business, and what something in business might be walking a fine line or entering a gray area. In politics, many of those gray areas in business are very fine lines, very easy to cross over, and you have to pay more attention to them. Trump and people like him see politics as a business, which is why he is failing at politics. And there was some opinion article that said if Trump's going down, he's going to try to take as many people with him. And all I could think to myself was, well, shit, I hope he takes all his supporters with him, because they all need to fucking go with him. Excuse my language.
I think the freestyle kind of killed whatever illusion of safe for work that we had.
Yeah. And the problem is when you have one idiot on the public stage that is the world, who is getting away with all kinds of idiocy and ignorance and hatred and bigotry, more follow. And I'm an advocate of having patience with people and understanding and compassion, but you can't have patience and understanding with people who are trying to or doing you harm, because if you have if you let them keep doing you harm, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. You have to have a point where you go, look, yes, I have patience, understanding, compassion, freedom of speech, and all this other stuff, but what you're doing is harming other people. There is a line that has to be drawn, and it's here, and you're crossing it, you're gone.
Yeah. And that was something I noticed, especially on the campaign trail, originally, like in the 2016 election, is that he was a showman. And Stephanie pointed out he has failed at business, but him and Gene Simmons has something in common. They will try anything to make a buck. They might not succeed, but they'll keep trying until they get something that that they could profit off of. You know what I mean? Trump has done. He's tried universities. He's tried steaks. Doesn't he have a suit company too?
I don't.
Or a clothing line or something. But he's had all that. He's had hotels and all that stuff. So he's tried a lot of things. He's failed a lot of things.
Well, before we get too far off our mark here.
Yeah.
We honestly could spend the next 2 hours talking about the various candidates for the upcoming elections in whatever country happens to be holding them here shortly. But that's not what we're trying to do here.
No, what we are trying to do is
because
we want to talk about people wanting to or trying to get people to vote.
Well, the problem that I see quite often is that what's the most common thing you see, especially out of younger voters these days? what are some of the things that you guys hear most often?
On my side, at least what I've been hearing, of course I'm an old fart, but education is a big thing, particularly having to pay for it, like student loans, jobs, healthcare, and actually just being able to live, like, you know, graduating from school, or, you know, if you're lucky enough to make it through college, you know, what's waiting for you at the other end of it.
The thing that gets me, and this is the one thing that I hear repeated over and over and over again. Why should I vote? Why should I bother?
God, I hate hearing that.
My one vote isn't going to change anything.
Yeah.
That's really what we need to look at tonight.
Yeah, that bothers the hell out of me when I hear that.
I mean, I can understand the reasons why somebody would think, oh, well, why does my vote matter? Why should I vote? Well, I mean, what's the point? And I get it. I get it when you feel like you're the only voice speaking out with what you're trying to put as your message in a crowded room that, you know, nobody can hear your voice over.
Yeah, well, I agree.
But people forget so easily that they might be the quiet voice in the room. But having gone, like, I spend one night a week going to a game store to play board games with friends.
Mm-hmm.
And very quickly, there might be one loud voice in there, but if everybody's talking in quiet tones, it gets real loud. Because those quiet voices all add up. And people forget that.
But I think, too, one of the other big issues that I'm seeing is, so a person is asking, why should I vote? When the politicians should also be asking, what do I have to do to earn your vote? And I think that's being lost on people, on politicians these days. You know, I don't hear... I don't hear a lot of, you know, sure, it's lip service, you know, like, we are the party for the people. Actually, I think Kim Jong-un said that. But I think that's what a lot of it is, that the politicians are actually out of touch with everything that's going on. And because they're so caught up in, you know, dare I say it, they're so caught up in things like lock her up, Orange Man bad, build the wall, brown face, they're coming for our gerbs. Everybody is so tied up in buzzwords and catchphrases that not a single politician I've seen yet on either side of the border is actually going out and saying, what do you need? What will it take from me so that I can rest assured that I have your vote? What is going to get you out of your house and to a polling station? What do I have to... Well, okay, what do I have to promise? But ideally, what do I need to do? And I think that is lost on people these days. Or I'm completely talking out of my ass. One of the two.
No, you're right. I'm trying to. I have this essence of an idea that is rolling around in my brain right now, and I'm just trying to find the way to coalesce it into a coherent statement. one of the things that I keep hearing, like I said, one thing is, oh, well, my vote doesn't matter against all the other votes. Another thing I keep hearing is, what's the point of voting? They're going to do whatever they want anyway.
Mm-hmm.
One side's just as bad as the other, yada, yada, yada. And I think Winston Churchill put it best.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed. I don't do a very good Winston Churchill impression. I'm not quite drunk enough. And I don't smoke enough cigars.
Mm.
But indeed, it has been said that democracy is the worst form of government. Except all those other forms that have been tried from time to time.
Yeah. And that kind of goes to what I've said before about certain, socioeconomic or political models. They all look good on paper. They all sound good until you factor in the human condition. And then it all goes to shit.
Well, that's because there's humans
Well, exactly.
involved.
No, exactly. No, it's the fallibility of our species.
This is why I welcome our robot overlords. And I say that, and people think I'm joking, but I'm not one of the people who are afraid of AI or anything like that, or singularity, all that crap. We humans are ruled by our emotions, and I'm not saying that we have to become like Vulcans, but we need to learn to control our outbursts, as it were, because even when we're 60, 70, 80, 90, whatever amount of years old you want to consider yourself an adult at, it doesn't matter. We're still ruled by our emotions. And we have things that could destroy this planet multiple times over. We are still children as a species. We are a danger to everything alive on this planet.
Yeah.
We can't even agree on properly limiting the access to weapons that can only kill on a small scale for people who are clearly should not have access to them. People who they have gone to see professionals, and these professionals have said on their files, these people are not right in the head. There is clearly something wrong. They are a danger to others. They are a danger to themselves, and yet they can still get guns.
Well, and that's because of the Constitution. At least
but the Constitution never took into account that which they did not truly know back.
No, exactly. You're right. But unfortunately, you've got those people who, they are letter of the law, letter of the Constitution. And if mental illness is not part of it, then it's not in the scope of whether or not a person should get a gun. It doesn't say, you have the right to bear arms unless you're diagnosed mentally ill.
Remember, this is also coming from a time where not too long before, young women were being burned at the stake just for speaking in tongues. So
I hear you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I totally hear you on that one. But that's the other thing too, is I want to say that the younger generations are also waking up, though, and no, I don't mean they're good. Yes, there are some that are getting woke, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people who actually do use the internet to learn. To think a little more critically. Like, yeah, on here we poo-poo a lot of people, particularly of the religious bend who, still don't think clearly. But I'd like to think that collectively, knowledge, intelligence is rising. I think people are thinking a little more critically these days, and that politicians need to clue into this. Because you hear about, what was one? I read somewhere that Joe Biden he was going to introduce basically a gun law that if a magazine held more than so many bullets, that weapon would be illegal, and it actually would have outlawed every single handgun that wasn't a revolver or a bolt action. You're right, Tech, in that we are ruled by our emotions. But I think we also need to be, and I think we're more able and maybe more willing these days. Okay, we make the outburst, but then if you step back and take a breath and go, man, I really shouldn't have said that. Because now it feels like it proves the fact that you talked out of your ass. But at the same time, you should think a little bit before you speak, I guess is what I'm getting at. Or
take a moment, not necessarily think before speaking, but allow the emotions. If you're riled up, all right, if you read something or you hear something come out of somebody's mouth, say something that comes out of their mouth, that get your emotions all riled up. And I'm guilty of this. I know I'm guilty of having a snap emotional response. But rather than even worrying about taking the time to think about it, just taking the time to calm the F down.
Yeah.
And I know that despite my age, that no matter how old I get, it's something I will always have to. It's something that, I may not have the time to do because of the response being immediate, being necessary.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too.
But I have to keep trying.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too, is that information travels so fast these days. A response is expected, and more people are just more
you have 2 seconds of airtime that are dead.
Yeah,
and people lose interest.
Yeah, and these days it's more say something than say the right thing, or it's not say something proper, it's just say something. And what is it? The New York Times recently, I mean, they've posted stories, and then less than a day later they actually have to retract or correct what they've done because they completely screwed it up. Back in the days of traditional print media, that was, if you're that kind of so-called journalist that, completely screws up something like that, you're not working for the New York Times any longer. But these days, that's par for the course because, the story's got to get out there. It's got to make it to, it's got to make it to the people first. Who cares if it's right? We can always, as Shujin always tells me, just fix it in post.
Yeah, and the problem is nobody ever reads post.
Exactly. So
because the article that made page 1 had the retraction issued on page 7.
Yep.
And who gets to page 7 if they lose interest by page 2?
Yeah, and what happens is that now you've got all these people who believe the original page 1 story, even though it could have been an out-and-out lie. But that's what they go off of because, who has time to read page 7? And they should have got it right the first time. In that, they're right. They should have. But they didn't. Now, whether that's because it was, say something versus say something right, or you've got an editor who's maybe got a bit of an agenda, I don't know. But, and this is what, our one of our other panelists, Joseph, always talks about, is people just not thinking critically enough. I'd like to think we're getting better. I'm hoping we're getting better, but I don't know.
Why should I vote? If you're looking for a reason to vote, well, I can't really speak for, say, the Canadian elections or any other democracy for that matter, simply because I don't have the numbers available to me right this moment.
Yeah.
But if you're an American and you are asking yourself, why should I vote? Give me one good reason why I should vote. Right off the
Because
top of
it's
my
your voice.
right off the top of my head, I can give you 2.9 million reasons. 2.9 million. That is roughly the number of men and women killed, wounded, or missing in action over the course of military service throughout United States history. These are individuals who rose to the occasion to fight what they saw as an injustice, to fight for freedom, to fight for the liberties of other people. And not only that, but consider the fact that when you vote, you're voting in not just the president, but the representatives, the senators, whoever. It's Congress that decides whether or not we go to war.
But I think the other big problem, and I mean, I'm not knocking the voting. I mean, ever since I moved to this province, I have not missed an election, either municipal, provincial, or federal. And that's going on 26 years since I've been out here. So, you know, it's a civic duty. It's what's expected as one of your responsibilities as a citizen of your country. As authoritarian as that might sound, it's not.
And yeah, I know there are a lot of people that will argue that, oh, it's not like every single war that America has fought has been justified. Well, I'm not going to pretend that it is.
No, and people would be foolish to think that, but that doesn't negate the point that there are still people out there shedding blood for, you know, for the country they believe in. And if you are part of that country as well, then, you know, I kind of say you owe it.
Now,
You know?
if 2.9 nearly 3 million weren't enough reasons for you to get off your ass and vote, let me put this one to you. If you're not going to vote for your own interests and make your own voice heard on the matter, who will?
Yep.
Who's going to vote for your interests? Who's going to take the time out of their day to vote on your behalf? Because if you aren't willing to do it, guarantee you, Joe Bob fuckall across the street sure as hell ain't going to.
Yep.
I've sadly met two kinds of mentalities with that camp of the people who say, why bother? The one mentality I've met was, it doesn't matter what they feel or think, no matter what they do, they're never going to win. And I was like, okay, those are the people who give up, period. They've just given up.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other camp that I've heard from before was, well, they'll get it right eventually, so I don't have to worry about it because it'll eventually work itself out. And I was like, there's two kinds of works itself out that I can think of off the top of my head. Works it out in the favor of someone, it's probably not going to be you, or works it out in the favor of mass human extinction. You pick one of the two, okay? Because if you're not voting, you're not picking one of those two.
Yeah. But I think one of the depressing things about the entire election process is it doesn't matter if 95% of the population votes or 5% of the population votes, there's still going to be a winner. So to say don't vote because silence is power, it's really not.
No.
Because,
In fact, go ahead.
I was going to say, so yeah, a news station can say, well, only 5% of the American public voted this election. Trump got in with a record 5,000 votes as opposed to, the Democrat who got, 200 votes. Just as an example, I'm not pulling for either side here. But the bottom line is, regardless of how many people vote, there is still going to be a winner. And I think that is what's really disheartening, because they don't care if it was 95 or 5%. They won. That's all they care about. They've accepted the mandate, even if it is from a handful of people, and therefore, to them, it doesn't make a difference. And that's the really sad thing, is that but I understand you can't have you must have this many votes before you can even be considered a competent leader type of thing, which is almost an infinite bar, I'll admit. But it doesn't matter. It's just, did you get the most votes out of the pool who voted? And if your majority is silent, it doesn't matter. Somebody is still going to end up sitting in the big chair. And in that respect, I don't know how you get around that kind of apathy.
Vote. See, the thing that as you said, people like to think that by not voting, they're somehow making a statement.
Mm-hmm.
However, there is something that you must keep in mind. Bad people with terrible ideas essentially get elected by good people who don't vote. Refusing to vote is not speaking out.
Mm-hmm.
Refusing to vote is not rebellion. Refusing to vote is nothing short of surrender.
That's about right.
It's quitting. It's giving up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I agree with that sentiment that not voting is giving up.
It is not only a right, it is a duty.
Exactly.
And the moment you toss it aside, that's it. Without it, you got Jack. You got Jack all. I mean, who was it? Was it Burke? Edmund Burke that said it. All that is necessary for evil to prevail is for good men to do nothing.
Yep. Yeah, and this is exactly where I can vehemently disagree with George Carlin right now, because there's the old saying, if you don't vote, don't bitch.
Well, yeah, I mean, Abraham Lincoln had a rather nice quote for it. Elections belong to the people. It's their decision. If they decide to turn their back on the people and burn their behinds, then they will have to sit on their blisters.
Yeah.
If you want to complain about the status quo and the way things are going, you best damn well vote. Otherwise, you got nothing to complain about.
One thing I am seeing more, though, and this is being tracked a fair bit too, is a lot of the younger generation nowadays are getting more active, or at least they're getting more pissed off. I don't know. I think in this next, I think in at least again in an American perspective, I think in 2020 we are going to see a high voter turnout because a lot of people are gunning for the Orange Man right now.
Mm. And I know I've been throwing a lot of quotes out tonight, but let's face it, there's a lot of guys that have put. I've been on this planet for 30 years, give or take.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a good number of folk, most of which are dead, that have spent a much longer clip of time here than I have. So, forgive me if I'm kind of picking their brains a bit, but,
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that.
Um,
But, I've...
something to keep in mind. Oliver Cromwell.
Mm-hmm.
When he won his office, 1 vote.
Wow.
And look at how it affected not just, England or the British Empire, but hell, the history of the world. Because, empires tend to have that effect.
Yeah. And, okay, I'm not going to let you know how many years I've been on this planet, but it's been more than you, Joey. And
That's
one thing,
like it.
yeah, get off my lawn. Although amazingly,
that's great.
Although you've probably seen more of this world than I have, and for that I'm a little envious.
I've bled over more of it.
Well, okay, I'm envious of the principle, the fact that you've gone to all these different places, not necessarily what you did while you were there. That y'all can keep that. But anyways, to my point. A lot of the election cycles that I've seen here in Canada is the fresh face comes out. They got bold ideas. They've got charisma. Yes, even Jean Chrétien. Look him up. They have charisma. They have drive. That sounded at first like they had the best intentions of the country at heart. And there's struggle. And I think a lot of people don't understand that is that, the prime minister or the president is only one person. They still have to answer to a body politic that ultimately says yes or no to, things like policies, laws, funding, etc. Now, with us, we don't have term limits. Like, for you guys, it's 8 years unless some circumstance, but ultimately they're out. Like, Trump will not be around. If he survives 2020, he will not survive 2024 because he won't be there anymore. With us, we've had prime ministers that have gone on for over a decade. I think Chrétien was in office for quite some time. But ultimately what happens with these parties is they get embroiled or they get exposed in some kind of scandal where they're skimming money off the side. Chrétien had a huge one with Quebec. Stephen Harper, after him, had some other kind of scandal. Justin Trudeau is, brownface aside, he's facing down a couple of big things now. There was an engineering firm called SNC Lavalin, which actually one of my old friends actually used to work for. But yeah, again, come this election cycle, that's going to turn around and bite him in the ass. And it just seems to be that they start off with all these intentions and they always end in disgrace. And that seems to be a pattern that I've noticed in all my years being on this planet.
Well, here's the wonderful thing about it. If you don't like the way your current candidate is behaving, acting, whatever, or, well, maybe they're not your candidate, they're just the other guy. If you don't like it, well, then maybe you should take the time, research your next upcoming candidates, and make an educated decision, rather than just, grasping on to the next witty little Rush Limbaugh soundbite or whatever.
And this is where the media has failed us because, again, and I remember
The media's not. Look, I know this is NPR aside.
Mhm.
The media is a business, and they are out for one thing and one thing only. Guess what that thing is?
I know.
It's money.
Yeah.
They're not interested in giving you, completely unbiased information. That doesn't pay their bills.
Yeah.
You have to go out and you have to do the research. And I'm sorry if that seems like an awful work for you, but guess what? That is the price you pay for democracy. I mean,
Yeah. But
I know that, like I was saying, I'm spitting out quote after quote here, but you know what? Ben Franklin, even if you're not an American, Ben Franklin generally viewed as a pretty, brainy guy.
mm-hmm.
Had a lot going on upstairs. Apparently had a lot going downstairs too when he was over in France, but we're not going to judge.
Ooh la la.
We're not going to judge.
No.
He had a nice little quote. What have we got? A republic or a monarchy? His answer? A republic. If you can keep it.
Yeah. Now, the thing I was going to say, though, with the media is, looks like we got somebody new here. Oh, Joseph decided to come in.
Speak of the French.
Beep, beep.
Nobody
beep,
expects the
beep.
French.
Actually, I'm pretty sure everybody expects the French when it gets brought up.
Yeah, now, watch this. Okay, yeah, we're good here, and there. Look at that. I learned how to do something.
Oh, you're hosting the show today.
Yeah, Shujin's off sick, so it kind of fell to me. And,
What was your first clue?
Oh, come on. I always come up with the witty remarks here ever so often. You know me.
All hail our new overlord.
Hey, you know what? I think I'm a wit, but I'm only half right. Anyways.
I thought all hail our robots overlords was my line.
Yeah. Anyways, for those of you just watching, of course, from across the pond and over into France, our international panelist, Joseph, has arrived. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, so today we're talking about voting, largely because we've got a federal election coming up in Canada here, and of course the specter of 2020 is looming in the U.S.A. What I was going to say, Joe, about the media is, and okay, let's talk quotes. I'm going for one a little more pop culture here. This is from Cobra Commander in G.I. Joe, the animated series. Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
No, I'm not going to do the voice, okay? I won't.
Come on.
I won't subject
Why
you to that.
not?
Because I was watching a really bad Transformers thing today, and they killed Starscream. Anyways, people love television. It's their friend. They believe everything it tells them about the sports, the weather, or G.I. Joe. Now, but to my point is that
Yo, Joe.
or what's his name?
Or porn.
Killian from The Running Man. People love television. They wean their kids on it. So if a TV station only runs attack ads, or their news only talks about, Orange Man bad, or brown face, or the latest gaffe on the part of, this candidate or that candidate, or the fact that, Cory Booker, the only thing he's known for is jumping on tables. And maybe that is all he's known for. I don't know, because I haven't really seen much. But my point is, even though media is a business, it's a shame that they also don't realize the kind of responsibility that they should have, because people don't typically think critically, or they're too disinclined to do the research that you're talking about, even though it's right there. But, convenience. That's the
news
thing.
stations. The news stations used to have a level of, what's the word for it?
Journalistic integrity?
Yeah, integrity. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you.
Yeah.
They used to have a level of integrity that even if you disagreed with the news, you knew that most of it was factual, even if you didn't like it. And of course, there were parts where they'd inject their opinions and their thoughts. And it was mostly obvious that these are the thoughts, these are the feelings. Now you have companies like Fox and such that were being taken to court for making statements on the air that were factually incorrect, and then the Fox lawyers going, well, you see, we're actually an entertainment network, so the show that we made those quote the statements that the plaintiff says are factually incorrect were for entertainment purposes only.
Yeah, but
And
did you
this
see
is
the
a
disclaimers?
A news channel.
Yeah.
You don't, if you're going to do entertainment purposes only, you don't do it during the frickin' news.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, that's how they get out of those lawsuits. And people are like, no, they don't. And I was like, first off, yeah, you can pull them up. You can do Google search, Fox News, court cases. What do they call it? Slander or libel? Which one is it when it's on libel? Okay. Libel, entertainment plug or whatever they call it. And they actually did that. They said, yeah, this particular show is an opinion entertainment piece. Therefore, we can say what we want and it's not slander. I'm paraphrasing, mind you, but legalese is a mouthful, and paraphrasing and dumbing it, not dumbing it down, but making it plain language.
Yeah.
Making it. Remember, lawyers basically wrote a language that only lawyers understand.
Yeah, there's a great another great quote from a book I just finished reading, but basically when this one scientist is talking to the main character, and the character says, hey, look, just break it down for me Barney style. Which is, assume you're talking to somebody who's not as smart as you.
Oh, I know which book you're talking about.
Oh, do you?
It's a science fiction book.
Yes.
Isn't it?
Yep. This one's fourth in a series that I just finished.
Is it the Mars series?
Is it where he's dealing with an artificial intelligence made by an alien species?
Oh, you mean the beer can who's an asshole?
Yeah, whose name rhymes with Stippy?
That would be Skippy the Magnificent. Yes, Expeditionary Force.
Who
Craig
made his
Allenson.
own cult.
Yes.
It's freaking fantastic, dude.
Yeah, I just finished
It is
book 4, and I'm waiting to get book 5.
I finished. Oh God, it's great. It's worth it. It's so worth it.
Well, have you do you read them or listen to them?
I did both.
Okay, because I got to say the narrator, that R.C. Bray guy. Sorry for going off track here, but that guy there, he is the kind of voice actor I would love to be.
He's freaking fantastic.
I know, right?
Put it in the show notes.
I will. I will.
Yeah. But the thing is like we're saying, the news channels used to have integrity, and you look around, and they don't. That's because, well, they don't really get too much of a say anymore.
Yeah.
They have to do what brings in the ratings and the money. And if they're losing one, they're losing the other.
And I mean,
And it sucks. It's like, guys, look, I would send a check to a company who provided a channel where it was straight up, mostly facts, very little opinion based news.
NPR.
Yeah. If I can dig down a bit, before.
No, I meant on the TV.
Well,
NPR's on the radio.
send money to NPR. Maybe they'll get a channel.
If I could put it simply, in the past, thinking was something we were supposed to aspire to. It's like a higher level that we're supposed to rise to, and people with integrity would try to sell to that. That was something worth selling to a thinking public, but that doesn't seem to be the case anymore. I mean, everything, even on the not only television, cable news and the internet, everybody seems to be selling to the credulous majority. Because I really get the impression that people have stopped not only thinking, but aspiring to a state of autonomous thought.
Yeah, it's hard to deny that.
Yeah, but I mean that's the way it's going, and I mean that's Murdoch of Fox News. He's consciously doing this. He knows exactly what his audience is. He knows who's he's selling to, and he's tailing everything he puts on air for them.
Talking about media though, Tech. A few weeks ago, I kind of glommed you onto Subverse.
Oh wow!
No, not the video game. The news channel on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Well, no. Now they are they are facts. They don't. There actually is no. At least from what I've seen, there is no opinion. There's even very little humor. Most of the people there are pretty. What would you call it?
Yeah, you were saying that, about how they go out and the Subverse news channel, that they look for things.
Well, one of them, their main person, her name's Molly. She's in Hong Kong right now, or she was, covering the riots over the.
I hope she's all right.
Well, funny you should say that. She actually did suffer a few chemical burns. So
I'm getting doubled.
I'm getting an echo here.
Same here.
Is it just me? Oh, there we go. It's gone now.
That was weird.
Yeah. But no, as I was saying, yeah, she suffered a few chemical burns on the part of the police. Like, even though the press is allowed to film there.
And the press were getting hurt.
Yeah, you should see the gear that they have to wear. Like, they're in like body armor, masks, like gas masks, everything.
Well, that's because before they were still out there doing the thing, and they were getting pepper sprayed, and they were getting tear gas. They were getting hit and beat up, even though they were clearly identified as members of the press. They were still getting targeted by the police.
Yeah.
And they weren't supposed to be. Yeah. And see, that's something that you want to look out for, is when you have a government that is going after the news, you've got a problem. Well, the moment Trump started going after the press, you could see the problem rearing its ugly head.
Yeah.
And yet it just got worse and worse and worse and worse. And if we look at where we're at right now with the presidency here in the United States, this is not, he's not mentally stable. He doesn't know what he's doing. There have been too many things that have been allowed to happen that should have never been allowed the second that he tried to do them. And it's a little too late, in my opinion, to recover from what he's done to tarnish us in the eyes of the world as a nation. To come back from this is going to take a long time, a very long time.
But yeah, well, again,
And the problem is going to be is that any presidents we have after him are going to be cleaning up his mess continuously.
Well, yeah,
And if we get another Republican in office, they're just going to blame the Democrats not working with Trump causing the problem.
forgive me for trying to steer us away from specific candidates again, because like I said, we could do a whole show on that.
Yes, we could.
We could do quite a few shows on that. But one more, there is one more fallacy that I want to address, and that is the idea that not just the whole my vote doesn't matter and all that stuff, but rather the, well, what's one vote going to do? One vote can change a lot more than you think. I've got a few examples here, if you would like me to share them.
By all means. And actually, if you've got, I imagine they're just coming out of history. But if you've got links, I'd love to throw them in the show notes at the end.
These aren't from any particular website.
Oh, okay.
Just some things that I threw together real quick. As I mentioned earlier, in 1645, one vote is all it took to give Oliver Cromwell control of England. 1649, one vote brought down the axe over King Charles I.
It's not just I don't even understand the motivation for thinking like that, because I mean it's not what you think you're all alone in the universe. I mean your vote with like hundreds of others is what counts. And if you're if 100 people think, oh, my vote doesn't count, then you're going to have 100 people that aren't voting.
I think what it is, Joseph, it's a case of the sand grains cannot see the beach, so to speak, or the snowflake cannot see the avalanche that they can cause.
And this is going back to what I'm always talking about. We seem to be in a me generation where nobody thinks beyond their own fucking comfort bubble.
Yeah, but I also think a lot of people in power right now are okay with that.
No, they're selling to it. Yeah. And actually, a credulous public is, to put it simply, a great way of earning a living, because they're going to depend on if you declare yourself to be an authority, chances are they're going to believe you.
Yeah.
And
actually, I'd like to hear more about what Joe was talking about there with the one vote. Like I only heard two, and we heard those earlier in the show.
Sorry.
What else you got, Joey?
Well, according to American folklore, in 1776, one vote made English the official language of America, or the United States at least, rather than German.
Wow. Talk about skinning your teeth on that one. Holy shit.
1800, one vote is what made Thomas Jefferson the third president of the United States. 1845, one vote is what brought Texas into the Union.
I wonder if they burn that guy in effigy every other week.
1875, one vote changed France from a monarchy to a republic. Well, one vote and a whole lot of heads rolled.
What year?
1875.
Okay.
Yeah, it is probably because of all those heads that there only was one vote.
I mean, the heads thing was from much earlier, but
missed me.
I was gonna say you kind of hedged your bets there, but
hey, you can make a religion. No, please don't.
No, don't.
1890, one vote made Idaho a state. 1923, one in-party vote gave Adolf Hitler leadership of the Nazi Party. 1941. 1941, the Selective Service Act, or the draft as many folks know it, was saved by one vote just weeks before Pearl Harbor was attacked.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is...
You'd be surprised what one vote can do.
Could you copy-paste that into the Discord chat?
Copy pasta.
Yeah, I think I'd actually like to... I'd like to include that whole phrase in the show notes tonight. Because, like you said, there's the apathy. One vote doesn't make a difference. Yeah, here's some examples, some of them relevant, that is going to contradict that. I think that's something worth definitely communicating. Oh, and Shuchin added one too. I thought he was going to bed. One vote prevents World War III Soviet Union nuclear strike when radar operator ignored a radar malfunction. I remember hearing about that one.
Yes, and also where 3 of the personnel on a nuclear-armed submarine, 2 of the 3 wanted to launch, and 1 didn't. And they needed all 3 keys to do it. Keep that in mind.
Yeah, it's...
Now, of course, yes. That was just, one vote out of 3, not, 1 vote out of 3 million.
But still one vote. It was still one person who made the decision to go a certain way as opposed to, either follow the mob or, just do what you're told. They said no, and, well...
One vote, and thankfully the rest of us get to laugh at the song, I don't want to set the world on fire.
Oh, boy. That completely derailed what I was thinking here.
I'm sorry.
Okay, no, the other argument that comes up with, and I think this goes hand in hand with why should I vote? And it is no party represents my beliefs. Now, in brackets behind that, I would also put in totality, because I think that is coming up a lot these days, is that you have to check off every single box on my list here. Otherwise, you're not a worthy politician, even if you fill all but 3.
Well, here's the thing. At least this is how it works in the U.S. You don't like any of the candidates that are being listed on the ballot? Guess what? There's a little section down at the bottom of the ballot where you can write in a candidate. Look, I know that for most intents and purposes, here in the U.S., we have a 2-party system. But it doesn't have to be that way. And I guess what? If more and more people start taking notice of that, and if you're that fed up with the way both the major parties are acting, more and more people that start voting third party or, just other party, they will start taking notice. So if you feel as I feel... No, I'm not going to go there.
You just reminded me of a song from Canadian band Trooper called "Raise a Little Hell." The first line: "If you don't like what you got, why don't you change it?"
It was I that blew up the Old Bailey. If you see what I see, if you feel as I feel, then I invite you. No.
Good
Copyright
movie.
infringement. Moving on.
No, you know what? Fair use. You transformed it. You used it for satire because that was a Passable. You know what? You did Hugo Weaving better than I ever could, so I ain't gonna say much. No, I honestly, it's been so long since I've voted federally. I don't know if we have that same capacity here in Canada, although we have pretty much a three-party system in the same vein that you have a two-party, in that
It doesn't have to be that way.
No, it doesn't
but
have to be.
People allow it to be that way.
Yeah. See, for us, it's more like, statistically speaking, it's going to be one of these big three that's going to take the big chair. But I mean, we've had, oh boy, I wish Heretic Woman was here because she could help me rattle some of these off. But we're talking the Moose Party, the Beaver Party, the Marijuana Party. I think we actually did have a Communist Party for a while. The Beer Party. I can't remember if we had the Cthulhu Party yet. Maybe not. That might be a little bit too highbrow for some people. But the bottom line is that these people, these representatives, could actually get themselves onto a federal ballot. And, you know, in a complete King Ralph moment, we could have, you know, Jimmy Joe Bob of the half-ton pickup truck dude from, you know, butt crack northern Manitoba, enough talking about my hometown, ascending to the office of, you know, member of Legislative Assembly or member of Parliament. Like, we do have that possibility, but I think with us, you actually have to be registered as a party member but you if I get this right, you can actually just write in whoever?
Yes.
Huh. Because I've heard rumblings from some people that if depending on who gets chosen as the leader of the DNC, some people might write in one of the other opponents as on the ballot. But
so I just crunching some numbers here real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was just because, you know, like you said, everybody's like, you know, it's going to be one of the two parties, right? It's definitely going to be one of the two parties.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's have a look back at 2016, since it seems to be such a pain in the backside for so many people.
Oh boy.
There were, according to the popular vote, there were roughly 129 million votes cast between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. 129 million between the two of them.
So roughly 1/3 of the U.S. population.
Well, that's the point I was about to get at there.
Mm-hmm.
The population of the United States was roughly 323 million in 2016. So, of 129 million votes cast, that's 194 million that, well, and then let's face it, there's probably a good percentage of that were children. So you know what? Let's just say out of that percentage, let's cut it in half. Let's cut it in half and say that the rest were all children. That's 97 million votes. Now, each candidate, let's see, did I close that window? I hope I didn't. Oh, apparently I did. Let me see. History. Pop that back open. There it is. Clear my search history. One of the big kerfuffles that people make about it is that Hillary Clinton won the popular vote with roughly 66 million votes to Donald Trump's 63 million votes.
Yeah.
66 million, 63 million, 97 million unaccounted for. If you don't like either of the two major parties, guess what? You start voting for somebody else, they're gonna take notice.
Yep. And the thing is I also hear, a vote for a third party is a wasted vote. And it's like, no, it's not. If you want to make your voice heard and you don't like who the candidates are, write in the person that you want to be there. It doesn't matter if the person's on the ballot or not. You have a write-in space, depending on what country you live in and what the rules are. And if, there's a bunch of candidates and you have to choose from what's there because maybe wherever you are, they don't do write-ins, then find the one that most aligns with your personal set of ethics and integrity.
And you see, this is where I'm in a bit of a pickle with who I've got right now. Because, okay, so I've got my three. I've got Trudeau, I've got Singh, and I've got Scheer. Trudeau I've never really liked because his focus is on Eastern Canada. There is nothing but the west of Toronto, west of Ottawa is the cursed earth as far as a lot of people in Ontario are concerned. Like, just ask a lot of people in Toronto. They know nothing about us. They think we're a bunch of uncultured rednecks. Okay, they might be right, but that's beside the point. Now, okay,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just, before we lose the track, I'd
Mhm.
like to put in a note about your write-in candidate. Before you do that, unfortunately, you have to look at the entire picture. You have to be able to predict also what the rest of the voting bloc is going to do. Because if they're going to go for the one candidate or the other, your write-in vote could end up being like an Elizabeth Warren in the 2016 election.
That's true.
If the majority goes for one candidate or the other.
Yeah.
It's a broken system.
Yeah. But anyways, so the Liberals platform, at least when Trudeau started, it was a lot of, its current year and political correctness and this and that and the other thing. And now I haven't really seen much in terms of a platform from him, especially as of late, because, again, I go back to the SNC-Lavalin scandal that he's dealing with and the whole brownface thing that just popped up recently. Look, personally, I don't give two craps about, what you do at a party, be it Halloween or whatever. But this is what people are screaming about. Now, you've got Andrew Scheer, the conservative. And, of course, the second you mention the word conservative, everybody winces because, oh, no, he's anti-LGBT. He's going to roll back this. He's going to make abortion illegal and blah, 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 blah. I don't necessarily support a mandate that has to deal with, business tax cuts because they never seem to work. They never seem to really drum up the economy the way that people want. And Singh, like I said, the one thing I've really seen come out recently is he wants to fight our big telco companies. Like our cable and internet companies. He actually wants to cap how much they're allowed to charge, which could be a good thing because, we can't quite call internet an essential service yet. It's getting there. But the other thing about, like with Trudeau, he also has, it recently just came up that his family has oil interests that rely on Saudi imports for their fortune. And if, out west here, if we keep developing oil sands and we keep producing oil, that could hurt their bottom line. So that's where a lot of the whole dirty oil and Alberta's nothing but a bunch of polluters and all that BS comes up. And Singh, he wants, one of the things he had said was he wants to make sure that Canada is no longer a fossil fuel producing country by, a certain amount of time, which would basically kill the economy of the richest province that they have and the one that's responsible for most of the transfer payments or the equalization payments, for the rest of the country. So this is what I got to deal with, from each party. Each representative has good and bad. It's going to make it makes it a tough choice. Although at least for the most part, I know that I kind of know the platforms of each of the parties right now. By the next election, I don't know, we may be in the same boat as you guys where, okay, just how much of a douchebag is this person compared to that person? I really don't know what they're going to do about economy, healthcare, or military or anything like that. I just know that that person's a butthead, that person's a criminal, and that person wore white shoes after Labor Day. It just seems, I don't know. I prefer to vote on platform. What are you going to do for the country instead of, like, I don't care if if Elizabeth Warren wears a pantsuit that makes her butt look fat. Is she going to turn the economy around for you guys? No, to me, I think that's a legit question.
Yeah. It's a legit question. But...
Yeah. But, I'd love to see an advertisement like what we talked about here with a grain of sand not being able to see the beach or the snowflake not being able to see the avalanche. That would be so cool if you could roll that into a commercial. Like, hi, I'm maybe not use snowflake because that could be a pejorative in some places, but we all think of ourselves as, this tiny grain of sand, yet we don't know, we don't realize how powerful that is when you have a bunch of grains of sand together. We form a beach, we form a desert, we form a rock slide or something like that.
A country?
That too. Like,
That's
no, you're absolutely right, Joseph. I was just thinking in terms of, something abstract so that you can capture the artsy-fartsy people.
Yeah. But, I mean, really it comes back to we have to somehow find a way of people breaking out of their comfort bubble thinking. I mean, just to realize that together you are a country.
Yeah.
E pluribus
unum, from many to one.
Yeah, that has to come back.
Yeah. Or what's the other? I am legion for we are many, or something like that. I actually no, strike that. Isn't there? Oh, okay. I can't believe I'm saying this, given the nature of this show. Isn't there there's a Bible verse about that, like we are legion or something like that?
Yeah, there was a conversation. It was Jesus' conversation. Oh, I knew this by heart before, but I forget the book. But
the scary thing is, the only reason I remember it is because of Mass Effect. Because there's a character in there called Legion, and they actually use that Bible quote.
We are many, and
you're speaking of the
somebody did
Gospel of Mark.
Okay.
The man from Gadara.
Okay. I'm actually going to throw that in.
Who's some paint as the devil?
It is Mark 5, 1 through 13.
Okay, I'm actually going to add that to the show notes because I think even though we do kind of throw a lot of shade on religion on the show, which is kind of what we do. I think there might be some merit to that in this context because, well, like you said, one person is not an island. We are a nation, and you're not alone. And I think that has to be really driven home with a lot of people. Okay, we're coming up on the top of the hour here.
The exact quote that you were looking for is from Mark 5:9.
Okay.
This is quoting from, I believe, the King James Version.
I'll forgive you for that.
Or the new King James Version. And he asked him, "What is thy name?" He answered, "My name is Legion, for we are many."
Yeah, that really says it all.
In what context?
Well, that one voice is not just one voice. When you're talking about a nation, you are a legion of many voices.
It's like I said before, with my fellow board gamers, you can have a lot of very quiet voices, but when they all speak up at once, it's deafening.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a large group of voices all voting at the same time, it is legion.
Yeah.
It's deafening. But when you don't vote, it's a whimper. If at best it's a whimper.
Yeah.
And when you have... Exactly. And when you have more and more people not voting because they feel that their vote doesn't matter, then that legionist voice that would cry out and say, we choose this, we choose that, starts getting quieter. And then the other voices that were normally being drowned out, the ones that might have had ideas that were a lot less common or publicly agreeable, start becoming the norm, and everybody's hearing that. So when you have, 10 people in a group of 100 who are loudly saying racist, bigoted bullshit, and you have 90 people in regular voices saying, we love you, you're our neighbors, we welcome you. And suddenly those 90 people, they get quieter and quieter and quieter. Those 10 people speaking in a regular voice are now the loud voice. And that's what you have going on right now. I lose track of how many people who say, oh, we should do better by refugees. Oh, we should do better by education. We should do better by the climate. And I asked them, I was like, did you vote? Did you vote? Did you remember to vote for more than just the president? Did you vote for the other offices? Nah, I don't do that because it doesn't really matter. Or, no, I don't vote because voting doesn't matter. Or, oh, I voted for Trump. Or I voted for a politician who is blatantly bigoted or blatantly, anti-climate change or anti-climate acknowledgement,
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going, you idiots. You want these things, but you're not willing to vote for the people who support the things that you want. I know for a fact that I used to communicate with somebody on Facebook who blatantly admitted that, now the profile is inconveniently private, but it's somebody I went to high school with who's very religious, who blatantly admitted that he would not vote for any politician who was pro-choice, even if that meant that the only politician he could vote for, who was pro-life, was also a horrible human being, because it had to be a pro-lifer. And I was like, so what you're saying is you who believe in the devil would do the devil's work, which he didn't like that. Because in all honesty, you know, if the devils were to truly exist and want hell on earth, the easiest thing he could do is put a whole bunch, convince a whole bunch of bad people to be pro-life, but everything else is acceptable, to twist the Bible because the devil knows the Bible, and make sure that all other people vote for those pro-life leaders. And, boom, there you go. You've got total control over the government of the people.
Yeah.
But I don't believe in the devil. I don't believe in that shit. Humans can have their own devilish or godly natures. People can act angelic or demonic, but to have a real devil or a real god, I don't believe in that crap. And likewise, when I look at politicians who say one thing and do another, I can't believe in them either. But people can change. You can have a politician who goes, look, in my early teenage years, I went and I got drunk and I did something stupid. I went to a Halloween party and I went with blackface, or I went to a Halloween party and I went with whiteface because there was that, I forget who it was, got white, did white paint to make themselves look white.
Yeah.
Granted, it's not as much of a negative due to history, but it's still whatever. And how far do we take this crap too, by the way? A white person wearing a Barack Obama mask, is that the same as blackface? Come on.
There are people who would connect those dots, though, Tech. That's the thing.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We have somebody who did something stupid in college can grow out of that if you give them time and a chance. And I think we should be allowed that time and a chance to grow and become better, especially, when these things are coming to light. Some people don't realize that the dumb thing that they did was something dumb at the time that they did it. For example, Weird Al Yankovic. He did a song. He does a lot of parodies. And there was one song in particular that came out that was, and I'll have to put it in the show notes. I'm trying to remember the name of the song, but it had to do with punctuation and using your words properly.
Oh yeah.
Word crimes.
Yeah, that was
word crime. That's the one. Yeah, word crimes. When he came out with word crimes, I thought it was great. And then he said a word. The word was spastic. Now, in the way that he used it and everything else, I originally thought it was funny. I did not realize, despite my origins of my experiences growing up, not origins, I'm not Superman. Despite my experiences growing up and being around certain types of people in certain environments and such, which I'm not going into any details in, those are extremely private. I have become aware of many sensitive words long before they were acknowledged as much as they are today of being highly offensive. In the circles that I swam through on occasion or passed by, I never once heard spastic being used derogatory. It was more of spastic as in motor control. Somebody had a spastic moment.
Yeah.
So that's how I took it. Woe unto Weird Al. The Twitter community lit him up. And if it wasn't for his reputation and for his job, they would have destroyed him the way they destroy other celebrities.
Yeah.
Luckily, his public apology and his statement were well received, and it went forward from there. Because Weird Al has the ability to show remorse. Weird Al has the ability to communicate with his audience and everything else in a well-mannered and thought-out way. We need to give everybody a chance to actually become like that. And we don't. That emotional response drives us to pick up Twitter, to pick up Facebook, Reddit, whatever your favorite medium of choice is, and blow the fudge out of it.
Yeah, because, and the other thing too is that, you know, if a person does make that apology, it also seems to depend on whether or not the public thinks the apology is worthy, which, again, I think is bullshit. But again, that's my opinion.
I've sometimes said that, because I'm guilty of this. I have sometimes said, no, I honestly feel that person is not remorseful, that they are only sorry that they got caught. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people who would back me up with that statement. But I'm willing to bet that there was probably somebody out there that said Weird Al's not really sorry about the spastic statement. That he's just sorry that he got caught. And I was like, well, this is a different context. He made a song. He used words that rhymed. He used things that work together. And he's not a malicious person running for office. Therefore, there's more history in favor of him when he apologizes of being truly apologetic. Whereas an unknown or somebody who has a history of doing malicious things is less likely to have that history.
Yeah. And that actually, that could open itself up into a whole other Pandora's box that we could do another for like 3 shows on that one at some point.
Yeah, like how to judge when a political or public figure apologizes for something that they was brought up in their past that was wrong. How do we know that they're truly apologetic and remorseful about that thing versus they're sorry they got caught? How do we determine?
Well, and I'm also thinking, I'm thinking statute of limitations on that too.
Exactly. Listen, if I hear of a politician who's in their 40s or 50s and they got dressed up for Halloween and they were an early teenager, 14, 15 years old, and they used, they wanted to be their favorite cartoon character or political figure or whatever, and that person or character happened to be black, and so they put on, you know, blackface or whatever, or they're reenacting from a movie scene or something. And then 30s and 40s, they're like, oh yeah, I did that. It was stupid when I did it, but I was also a kid and I didn't know any better. I know better now.
Yeah.
And that person doesn't have a history of doing stupid, malicious stuff like going out and driving drunk or putting the blame for all their problems on everybody else. It's like, okay, they benefited the doubt. You know, that whole statute of limitations. But if they're, you know, 45 years old and they did it 5 years ago, yeah.
Okay, so in that respect, yeah, context matters. But you know, and this actually does tie into the topic of the show tonight, because it seems to be these days, when it comes to voting for people or casting a vote, this facet of a person's life has now also become part of the package. It's now no longer just, you know, I'm going to introduce this tax bill that will do this. I'm going to introduce this education bill that will do this. I'm going to, you know, improve your infrastructure this way. I've got this plan. Oh, but 5 years ago you called this person that, or you did this. And I'm going to focus more on that now than this wonderful package you are, because, you know, Twitter told me to, or, you know, something like that. And it's going to be tough for future politicians, because it's now no longer about what you're going to do, but what you've done. And unless it seems to me these days more, if your past is not, you know, Virgin Mary grade immaculate, you're not going to get anywhere these days. And
that's the thing. Nobody's past is perfect.
Well, no, I know that, but it seems to be.
Back when I used to watch CSI. Did you guys ever watch that program?
To the
CSI?
point, yeah, to the point where if I hear one of those songs again, I like kind of have a conniption over in the corner.
Okay. Well, in one of the episodes, and I don't remember what episode it is, and I don't think we may or may not be able to easily find it. But in one of the episodes, one family's life is brought under the microscope, under the magnifying glass, if you will, because a death happened. It was terrible, yada, yada, yada. It's the nature of every episode of CSI, the original series. Somebody dies, and so something terrible happened, and they're looking at this family under a microscope because they have to, and they're seeing all the dirt, all the secrets and everything else that are being uncovered, and worse things start happening. And at one point, one of the agents, towards the end of the show, one of the agents says to, I think it was to Grissom or somebody else, but says, you look at them under a magnifying glass and you see all the horrible things. And it was either Grissom or one of the other people in charge and said, well, what person could you do that with and not have that happen?
Yeah.
Or that could happen that would happen to anybody you do that to. That's what it was. That would happen to anybody that you do that to. And that's the truth. Everybody has something going on in their life that, regardless of whether it's truly atrocious by societal standard, I would be hard-pressed to find somebody who does not have some secret or something that they're not proud of in their life that, they could have made a wiser decision on.
Making mistakes is how we become better people.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
And already admitting a mistake, it's a good thing. But I really think, Dunning-Kruger, realizing your own stupidity is the first step on the road to intelligence.
Yeah.
But what really bothers me in all this is this society that seems to think in absolutes.
Yes.
Black and white. The concept of perfection, as if nobody has ever made a mistake. This seems to be the ideal. And for me, for me personally, it's kind of scary, actually, because it's almost totalitarianism in a sense where it's going back to my survive by imitation concept. But I mean, people's idea of perfection is someone else's example. And if you adhere to it, quote unquote, perfectly, then you can be, quote unquote, perfect.
Yeah.
It's just a sign of somebody who's not thinking for themselves, who's not responsible for their own actions, who's shelling off everything onto somebody else.
Yeah. It's
and it's true through religion and what you guys were just talking about, even in television shows or, sitcom morals, whatever you want to call it. This ideal of perfection. And because, life isn't black and white. It's not clear-cut concepts. Life is a huge interlaced Venn diagram of variables.
It is. It totally is. And I think that's where...
And it's scary to think about that. I'm sure for somebody taking their first steps in the world, rather than look at the world like that and where anything is possible, they prefer to reduce everything to A or B example and just ignore the fact that there are 1,000 other possibilities in every possible alphabet.
Yeah. And when we get into, again, we start looking at voting and stuff, I would love to, I'm definitely not looking for the divine candidate because they will never exist. But what I would like to see is somebody who is enthusiastic, who realizes that, you know what, today I may not be the perfect person for the job, but I'm damn sure going to try to aspire to it. And I'm going to make sure that, come re-election, that I earn your vote. I'd love to see politicians like that. And the fact that you guys have write-in ballots, Stephanie was talking earlier, apparently in the UK, if you do a write-in, the ballot is considered spoiled and not counted. Which sounds like a real dick move to me. But now, that's UK. US, I'm assuming that if you get enough people writing in a particular person, that person is going to win.
Well, you need an awful lot of people writing in one particular person.
I understand that, but
the thing that you run into is that each state gets to choose who they put on their ballot, but again, as I was trying to, what was it? A few years back, it was Stephen Colbert who made the joke of of running for president.
Mm-hmm.
And he ended up dropping it because his own home state of South Carolina wouldn't put him on their ballot. They didn't. They refused to put him on their ballot. Now here's the thing: he could have kept going, and could have just said, "Hey, folks, you got a write-in option." That's all I'm saying.
Oh, that is interesting. I wish we had that up here. You know what?
But
but
he realized how I think he realized the effect that would have if he had kept that up and asked people to do the
the effect that he was going for was to make people aware that, hey, guess what? It doesn't have to be a two-party system.
Our forefathers didn't want us to have a two-party system. They warned us about it, and look what the hell happened anyway.
Yeah. Well, I could just hope we're starting to run here a little bit. We're over the 2-hour mark, so I figured we just wrap this up.
I think all this is just what we're going through today is a result of a dumbing down of the population that began back in.
Out of curiosity, for example, the U.S. has the popular vote, but ultimately it goes to the Electoral College. For France and Canada, do you use direct popular vote, or do you have something similar to the Electoral College that we have here in the U.S.?
I think, at least for me, it's a representative government. When I go to vote, I will not be voting directly for the leaders of the political parties. I'll be voting for somebody in my riding.
Okay.
And if they win, they get the seat at in Parliament.
And then they vote on, say, Prime Minister or whatever?
No. Whichever party gets the most seats, and this has actually happened, even if the leader who is the candidate for prime minister, even if they lose in their own riding, if the party wins overall, they still get the big job.
Okay. But effectively, the idea being that because the party made them their leader, it's in effect the same thing in that, you vote for your representatives, and if the representatives get the majority, they get the big seat.
Yeah. Let's see.
But
so it's
in
not.
effect, you're voting for the party and not the person.
Yeah.
It's the party who decides the person who heads.
Yeah.
Here in France, it's not only direct voting; it's a two-step system. Whereas in the first round, sometimes we have as many as 20 different parties on the ballot.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's the first two front runners of that round that get promoted to the second for the presidential.
Okay.
Yeah. See, what we have here, we call it, it's our electoral system is what they call first past the post. So the candidate with the most votes in a riding wins a seat in the House of Commons and represents that riding as its member of parliament, or MP. The Governor General then asks the members of parliament to form a government, which is normally the party whose candidates have won the most seats, and that party's leader generally becomes prime minister. An absolute majority of the electorate is not needed and is rarely achieved, so as a result the power is held by either of two parties for most of Canada's history, although not recently, because I've borne witness, I think, to 2 elections where the so-called opposition got absolutely spanked by one of the parties. There was actually, I think it was when Harper finally came to power, after all the kerfuffles and stuff, the Liberals, who had been the ruling government before, they were down to 1 seat. Like, they got smoked because of scandal and their constant harping against Harper, ironically. But then recently we've seen the same thing where, the Liberals will come up and they will just absolutely trounce the incumbent party. So, but yeah, I don't think, I don't believe we are popular vote either. But I don't think there's quite that proportional representation thing that you guys have with the Electoral College. But in any case, whether it's Electoral College, whether it's direct vote, whether it's first past the post, whatever, we all need to realize that, yes, we are one vote. We are one voice on our own. But together, we are Legion. We are the avalanche. We are the sandstorm. We are the chorus that could be heard around the country. And that's a party I would sooner be part of than to sit on the sidelines and constantly bitch about.
But who managed to convince people that their vote doesn't count? This is what I don't get. It's years and years and years of demoralization.
Just Google that, Joseph. I'm pretty sure you get 1 billion hits as to who's done it. It could be anyone from the media to corporatists to elitists to...
But again, it comes down to a credulous... Even these people are credulous because, anybody who can think for themselves. You're living in a country, you have humans around you, and who you depend on for your survival. You can't get any more obvious than that. How is it possible to live like in a city or whatever, in a community, and imagine that anything you do or say has no effect on your surroundings?
Mm-hmm.
While everyone's whatever they do or say has an effect on you.
But it comes down to, I think, like you were saying before, Joseph, is
everybody thinks they're in their own. Really, everybody seems to think they're alone in the universe.
Yeah, but also they feel it's convenient. It's like, I don't need to do anything because someone else will do it for me. My government will take care of me regardless.
That too. It's not a simple thing.
No, it's...
There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of people manipulating it too.
Yeah, I think the only simple thing around here these days is that water is wet. And I'm pretty sure I could find somebody on Facebook that would fight me on that one.
I would actually.
All right. You know what? Before we break out the knuckles here and do what TDTF wants here, this gladiator style, I think we better get out of here. Any final thoughts? I know a couple of us kind of dominated everything tonight, but I want to give everybody a chance. Joey, any closing thoughts on this?
I think I've pretty much... Look, the horse is dead, all right? I'm
Time to
tired,
have
man.
a pony.
I'm tired, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I could keep swinging, but the horse is dead.
Yeah.
This is why I'm vying for education. I mean, I'm hoping for the next generation.
Yeah.
Just call the glue factory at this point and have them come pick it up.
Yeah. Okay. Tech. Anything left?
Nah, man, it's late. I got nothing else other than the fact that, hey, look, get out and vote. If your country allows voting, then you better damn well take advantage of it before it gets taken away from you, because if you don't do it, that's exactly what happens. It gets taken away from you.
Yeah. Okay.
That's like somebody coming up to your door and going, "Hey, do you mind if I take your house away from you?" And you just standing there saying nothing. I know it seems absurd, but it starts off with, "Hey, do you mind if I take this welcome mat? Hey, do you mind if I take that picture off the wall? Hey, do you mind if I take that the runner off your stairs,
And soon
the
they stop
silverware
asking.
out of your cabinet,
If
the
you
Afghan."
If you give a mouse a cookie.
They have a saying
point-
here in France. They say, "Ce qui vole un œuf vole un bœuf," which means
I have no-
basically, he who steals an egg will steal a cow.
Okay.
And that's the thing. And that's the thing. It really does work that way. If you don't stand up for yourself,
Cow's a
you're
little
gonna get
trickier.
stuff.
Cow's a little
Yeah.
trickier to stick in your pocket, though.
Yeah, kind of hard to hide under the trench coat.
I don't know. Have you seen the grunge pants these days? I think anything's possible. Anyways, Joseph, any final thoughts?
No, I think everyone's already said it well.
Okay. All right. Well, I want to thank you guys for putting up with me tonight. I know we had a bit of a rough start, but now I've got all these settings saved. So next time I have to do this, which could be in a couple of weeks, hopefully things will go off a little bit more smoothly.
Some like
I want to thank people who came in the chat tonight. Let's see. We had Stephanie, Ryan, Trippin was there. Felis, thank you very much. TDTF, long time no see for him, which, it's always good. Thank you guys for coming out tonight. I do appreciate it. We all do appreciate it. I will get the audio version of this show once I actually do some post-fixing for it. I'll get it up to our podcast site over at holycrapthevlogcast.com. If you want to leave us a note or whatever, you can drop us a line on Twitter at HCTV, or at holycrapthevlogcast@gmail.com. I don't have the phone number, and it wasn't part of the notes that I could see, and Shujin's asleep, so he can't correct me on this. He'll give me shit for it tomorrow. But anyways, again, thank you guys all very much. We will see you guys next week. Until then, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and have a good rest of the week. And as always, good night.
Good night and good luck.